Good morning. Welcome to the technology keynote you've all been sitting on the edge of your seats waiting for. Architecting the future to propel your business.
Today, every company on the planet is looking at a new reality. One that says that you're no longer tapping into a cloud, you're unleashing its full potential. Adapt to change faster. Connect anyone to anything, anywhere, faster. You want to grow your business? Boom. But here's the thing. This new reality comes with realities of its own. Applications are harder to control, harder to secure. Costs escalate. And ever-increasing complexity. Suddenly, you're running out of resources, man. But guess what? Between all the promises and making it happen, there's a bridge. One built on security that isn't an afterthought, but the main thought. Intentional from the start, in the right place at the right time between all your connections. One that lets you deliver applications on time, on any platform for a better experience every time. And one that lets you manage an entire network simply at scale. This is the new reality made real. And the company that invented the network in the first place is now ready to take you to this new place, where the power of the network moves at the speed of the cloud. Wherever you are, wherever you need to go, happens like that. Smarter, deeper, and more flexible than ever. And this is the bridge to get you there.
Cisco, the bridge to possible.
Welcome, Melbourne, and welcome to everybody who's also joining us online all across Asia. I want to start with where we kind of just were, that video. How many people in the room know who this is? Yeah, shout it out. What's his name? There you go. So I'm surprised that many people got it right. That's right, John Boyega. If you're a Star Wars fan like me, he is one of the stars of the most recent episodes and most recent sets of franchises from that movie. And I don't know about you, but I can remember when I was a kid and that first time I saw a Star Wars movie. And it was totally mesmerizing. It totally changed the way I thought about science fiction. And the cool thing about science fiction and Star Wars in particular, it changed what I thought was possible. And when you think about the world of science fiction, it really does show us what's possible with technology. It shows you what can happen in the future. And the possibilities are endless. And I think when we think about networking, our story's kind of similar. Many of you have been coming here for 5, 10, maybe even 20 years, and you remember back when this was not even Cisco Live, this was Networkers. And maybe it was a little smaller conference with not everybody in the stands here. And you've been part of this journey where we've brought networking to bear on the world, and we've actually made what was science fiction possible. It's an incredible story. It's really insane what it's unlocked from a possibility point of view. And what's so cool about this story is it's our story. Of course, we're not going to make you watch a movie on Cisco, but it would be kind of fun. But why I wanted to show you that is because some of the stuff we do is kind of science fiction. Like some of the stuff we make possible is kind of science fiction. And the network is behind all of that. And when you pick up the paper these days, you actually see some of these things becoming real. You know, when you look across the industries, you see examples of this. When you look at virtual reality, we're starting to actually see this become applied in our world today. Brain surgeons are now practicing surgery on an emulation of your brain before they actually do the surgery. And I don't know about you, but if somebody's going to operate on my brain, I want them to have as much practice as they possibly need, right? And then you look here in Australia, in Western Australia, you have autonomous vehicles. You know, we see this in every science fiction movie, and every year in the general populace, we keep on talking about autonomous vehicles are going to be here soon, Well, they're already here in Australia, and they're used to do mining. All the rock trucks in a particular quarry are actually now automated. Back where I'm from in the Bay Area in California, in the US, the joke's pretty much true. We all do love hamburgers, right? Well, now they've got robots assembling your food. And this is not just in California. We see this happen in Japan and in China, where automation in the restaurants are actually starting to become common. And underneath all of this requires great networking. To get the right experience for virtual reality, you need a great network. To actually make sure that the rock trucks are always got highly available connections, you need a great wireless network. And so there's a lot of pressure on us as IT professionals to make this futuristic vision real. And that makes for extremely exciting times because the pace of innovation is continuing to increase. It's continuing to go faster and faster. But that can also be a bit daunting because at the end of the day, your business, whoever you're working for, is counting on you to foresee the future, counting on you to get their networks ready for that next wave of innovation, that next wave of disruption that we all know is coming. And so what we wanted to do today was actually talk about 3 different disruptions that are going to affect you very near term if they're not already. We want to talk about what's happening in wireless, what's happening in cloud, and what's happening in IoT. And I want to start with wireless. Wireless has become something that everybody takes for granted. You just expect it to work. In fact, when it doesn't work, you get really, really upset. I was talking to a local university, and they were telling me that, hey, for them, for their students, the Wi-Fi network's the most important thing in their environment. In fact, it's more important to them than even water. I said, wait a second, explain that to me. How can it be more important than water? And they said, well, as long as I've got wireless, as long as I got Wi-Fi, I can always order water. And more importantly for me, I can always order beer as well. So wireless is the most important thing to that student's life. If anything goes wrong, they immediately let the administration know. And in wireless, there's 2 major things coming that are going to totally change how you think about wireless. One is 5G, which we've seen a lot of press around, particularly last week at Mobile World Congress. And the other we've heard a little less about, which is Wi-Fi 6. And Anand Oswald's going to come up here and break that down for you shortly and explain to you how it impacts you and your world. The second big disruption that we're going to talk about today is cloud. Cloud is the seminal change of our generation from a technology point of view. It's impacting everything we do. And you as IT professionals, it's showing up in your world all the time. You have developers in your organizations now creating applications in AWS or Azure or Alibaba or GCP, and suddenly they build that application and they're working on it, they get it all great, and then they flip it to production. And what happens? Well, they didn't actually bother to tell you that, hey, listen, I need to change the networking for this. I need to improve the security for this. But now tickets start flowing in, and it's your responsibility to get this thing working and to get it working fast. We're going to show you how we can help you with that challenge. The third big disruption is around IoT. IoT completely changes the scope of your job. Instead of having to make sure I have a certain amount of users connected, now I have 10 times the amount of devices I need to securely connect to my network. And we see this all the time. I was talking to a healthcare customer just the other night, and he was telling me about the radiology department ordered a brand new MRI machine, multi-million-dollar MRI machine. It comes into the environment. They're so excited. It gets off the truck. They start to go and install it. They call the networking department. They say, I need this on the network now. The network department's like, what are you talking about? What is this? And he starts looking at it. It's got it's a multi-million-dollar machine. It's got a $4 NIC in it. Were they consulted on the networking requirements? No. Were they consulted on the security requirements? No. But now it's the IT job to get that thing online and get it serviceable so that the business can make money as fast as possible. So we know these challenges are hitting you now. We know there's more complexity than ever with the rise of IoT and the amount of devices on your network. We know applications are moving everywhere. Data's moving everywhere. And that creates complexity for you. So we are committed to simplifying everything we do, to making every domain you operate in as simple as possible. And you will see that today in the demos. But we also recognize you don't run just one piece of the network. You actually run a network that includes the campus, includes the branch, includes the data center, and includes security. And so we are committed also to delivering a multi-domain architecture, to starting to interconnect these technologies in meaningful ways that allow you to achieve really sophisticated outcomes in a very simple way. So I talked about 3 major transitions: wireless, IoT, and cloud. And to kick us off and get us started, I actually wanted to bring up a good friend of mine, Anand Oswald, who's our Senior Vice President of Engineering. Come on up, Anand.
Thanks, Todd.
Welcome. Take it away.
2019 will mark the 20th anniversary of Wi-Fi. In 1994, Australian electrical engineer Dr. John O'Sullivan patented a technique to reduce multipath interference on radio signals. That work led to the 802.11 standard. And in 1999, the first laptop with inbuilt Wi-Fi began to ship. We've come a long way in 20 years. From a single laptop to ship with inbuilt Wi-Fi to now, almost every single laptop, smartphone, IoT device shipping with Wi-Fi inbuilt. Now, I'm not sure about you, but when I'm traveling on business, one of the first things I do when I check into my hotel is connect my laptop, my smartphone, to the Wi-Fi network. If I have to catch up on work, it's usually over WebEx. Talk to my family over a video call, and download a movie to relax and enjoy. All done over the hotel Wi-Fi network. The first thing we do when we reach a new place is look for signs on how do I connect to the Wi-Fi network. Today, Wi-Fi is no longer a luxury. It is a necessity. And it's not just about personal internet connectivity. It's the impact on Wi-Fi in every single vertical. Connecting point of sale terminal retail, medical equipment in healthcare, or warehouses, you have robots, all connected on the Wi-Fi network. But wireless is more than Wi-Fi. And cellular has played a very important role in our lives as well. Both Wi-Fi and cellular are having major transitions. And they will be responsible for some awesome predictions in the next 3 to 4 years. Think about it. 8 billion new mobile endpoint connections. 4 billion additional IoT connections. And the number of Wi-Fi hotspots, that's set to quadruple. 500 million additional Wi-Fi hotspots. And about 70% of all that cellular traffic will be offloaded onto the Wi-Fi network. Now, these changes in Wi-Fi and cellular are coming with 2 major technologies: 5G for cellular and Wi-Fi 6 in the Wi-Fi space. Now, both 5G and Wi-Fi 6 are built on some of similar fundamental technology building blocks, and hence will enjoy some similar benefits: greater reliability, longer range, lower latency. And that low latency, that will be critical to drive massive IoT applications, immersive applications like augmented reality. Now, Wi-Fi will continue to remain the choice of access when you're at home, in your campus and branch environment, at the cafe, at the retail store, or when you're enjoying a game. And 5G, like 4G, will continue to be the choice of access when you're outdoors, long range, fast-moving vehicles, IoT applications. However, users will go from indoors to outdoors. And we need to make sure that these 2 disparate access networks communicate and talk to each other to ensure we have unified policy, security, analytics, and visibility. Ensuring that these 2 management systems help make the transition seamless will be our next forte. As initial deployments of Wi-Fi 6 are starting to roll out, let's double-click a little bit on some of the benefits of Wi-Fi 6. 4 times increase in density and capacity over existing Wi-Fi networks. We've all experienced a situation at a ball game. After a great play, when you're trying to upload that video, or update that message on social media, you have network congestion and unable to do that. That problem will be solved with Wi-Fi 6. Increase in battery life for the clients. It's expected that Wi-Fi 6 endpoints will have 3 times more battery life than existing devices. And that comes from part of the standard where the client and the access point negotiate the time slice to transmit and receive, enabling the client to shut down the radio at other times and conserve the battery. But it's not just about the technical statistics of Wi-Fi 6. It's about the use cases and applications that they enable. Massive IoT applications, immersive applications, and so on. At Cisco, we are working with technology and industry partners to make Wi-Fi even better. One of the big pain points of Wi-Fi has always been connecting onto a guest network. Scan for the SSID, enter your username and password. Hopefully you had no fat fingers. Then you may have a pop-up accepting terms and conditions. And maybe you need to do it again the next day. That's cumbersome. That's not consistent. At Cisco, we believe we can do better. And that's exactly what we've been working on. And if you were in Mobile World Congress last week and had a Samsung Galaxy S9 phone, the moment you got out of the airplane, you were connected to the Wi-Fi network. At the airport, at the train station, in the conference center, or if you're having dinner, you were connected to the Wi-Fi network. No scanning for SSIDs, no looking for the password behind your badge. Just plain Wi-Fi, always on. And we're also working with device ecosystem partners like Apple. So if you're an enterprise customer and you have some mission-critical applications that run on that network, we can prioritize those applications in the fast lane, give it the highest quality of service that it deserves. And with Wi-Fi analytics for iOS devices, we ensure that IT can manage and troubleshoot those devices with simplicity and ease. And we are working with Samsung to ensure the Galaxy S10 phone, the first smartphone that is Wi-Fi 6 ready, is fully interoperable with the standard and working super efficiently. Now, over the last 20 years, Wi-Fi has changed the way we work, connecting everything in the enterprise, people and things, and ensuring that we change the way we work. Now imagine, we can get the intelligence from the people and things that we've connected in the enterprise and use that to help digitize our business. We believe Wi-Fi can change the way you run your business. Now, digitization has rocked the core of every single industry. Amazon in retail, Airbnb in hospitality, Uber in transportation, Tesla in manufacturing, and so on. Now, what's one thing that's common across all these disruptions? It is the use of behavior data of people and things, and using that data to drive strategic outcomes. We believe that you can do the same for your business. Use the behavior data of people and things within your physical space, digitize your physical space, and use that to drive new outcomes, to increase your top line and your bottom line. Now, digitizing your physical space has not been easy. However, we have a few customers who work with us and trailblazed ahead. And they're already seeing some awesome results. Hyatt, for example, a 65-point increase in their Net Promoter Score, using the behavior data of people and things in the hotel, and using that data to drive new outcomes, to increase the top line, to increase the bottom line, and have better experience for you when you come into the hotel. And Deakin University here in Australia is now able to provide more efficient and more effective student services by analyzing the data that they have. Now that's great, but there has not been a broad-based adoption of these location-based services yet. We estimate about 3 billion square feet of physical space has been digitized. But the opportunity exists to digitize 500 billion square feet, based on the existing Wi-Fi infrastructure. So we looked at this problem holistically and came to the conclusion that there are three main factors which are inhibiting the broad-based adoption of these location-based services. First, onboarding of beacons and tags. Now, physical beacons and tags play a very important role in the digitization of your physical space. However, most of these beacons and tags come with proprietary systems and their own way of onboarding. That's cumbersome. Lifecycle management. The lifecycle management of these physical beacons and tags many a times required overlay networks, dedicated gateways, and the existing Wi-Fi infrastructure could not be used. And third, the partner ecosystem. The partner ecosystem to drive location-based services is very critical. However, it has been fragmented. So, through a combination of hardware, software, Cisco working in the standardization bodies, end-to-end policy and security, and a scalable cloud services platform, we believe we have a solution. Wasn't that awesome? Cisco DNA Spaces is a next-generation location services platform that will help you digitize your physical space. This scalable cloud services platform transforms your Wi-Fi network into a powerful sensor, giving you insights and trends that you were not able to see before. It also has tools that convert these insights to actions, thus truly digitizing your physical space. We also worked on a standard called LTX that ensures that you can have consistent and secure onboarding of physical beacons and tags. And Cisco's modular access points now come with additional radios like BLE and ZigBee. So you no longer need overlay networks or dedicated gateways. Since going live about a few weeks ago, we've already digitized 1.5 billion additional square feet of physical space. But as I said earlier, the opportunity is huge, over 500 billion square feet. We have over 20,000 enterprise locations worldwide now connected to this platform, handling peak traffic of over 10 million transactions in a given hour, with 4 nines of high availability, 24/7 of support, and ensuring that you can meet your SLAs. Now, the partner system to enable location-based services is very, very critical, and we recognize that. So we have an easy onboarding program for partners on top of this platform. So ISVs, resellers, enterprise software companies can now build vertically integrated solutions for your enterprise to help drive new business outcomes. And talking about outcomes, we've already seen some amazing results. Working with a large healthcare provider, they're able to use this platform to now locate high-valued assets. Some things that took them hours is now taking minutes, improving the productivity and the experience of both the patients and the employees. And working with a large retail chain, we're now able to get additional insights on what happens within their store. What times are the busiest times? How many people come to a store in a given hour? Which aisles in a given store are busiest? Is time spent equal to wallet spent? And how can they provide a better experience for you, the consumer, when you come into the store? To wrap things up, over the next few years, we are going to see some amazing transitions in wireless. 5G, Wi-Fi 6, and Wi-Fi helping you to digitize your physical space. These are big transitions. These will enable new experiences, new applications, and new outcomes. At Cisco, we want to help navigate you on this journey, and we look forward to partnering with you all. Thank you.
That's awesome, Anand. The future of wireless is definitely super cool, man. You know, I was thinking back, though, to the example I gave, and I was thinking about you mentioned, like, this could help things like augmented reality and virtual reality. How would it change virtual reality, for instance?
So, Scott, whenever you see pictures of virtual reality, you see these big glasses.
Yeah.
And behind the ears, you see these big wires, right? With Wi-Fi 6, it'll be wire-free.
That'd be much better. That's much more like science fiction, man. I appreciate it.
Thank you
Thanks so much. Hey, we talked about wireless as one of the key disruptions, and you've kind of heard about how 5G and Wi-Fi 6 are going to change wireless, but also how you can start to use your wireless network to digitize your space. But the second big disruption we want to talk about is around cloud, and how cloud impacts your operations and what we can do to simplify that for you. And to help make that come real for you, I want to bring up Frank Palumbo, Senior Vice President of the Data Center.
All right. Thank you.
Welcome, Frank.
Thank you, Scott. And it's a pleasure to be with you all today. And the cloud really is changing everything. So we say things are moving to the cloud, but really things are expanding to the cloud, right? And this has made us rethink our whole approach to the data center. The data center is no longer the center of your IT universe. We're accessing, processing, storing, and securing applications and data in every quarter of the enterprise. So there's nothing centered about the data center anymore. Our world now looks like this. We're looking at applications and data in the branch, at the IoT edge, in public clouds, in SaaS, and of course, in traditional data centers. And this has made things quite exciting for all of us, because the data center needs to go where the data is, and the data is in all these places. So I've talked to many of you this week, and you've come to me with the different challenges of this environment. And you said, hey, Frank, I have a general ledger application that I'm currently running on premise, but I need to feed it with data coming from the public cloud. But that application in the cloud does not adhere to our whitelist policy, so I'm out of compliance. Or Frank, the business has come to me and they want to manufacture in a country that requires the data to stay in country. And I have supply chain applications in multiple clouds and multiple locations around the globe. How am I going to make this work? So your organizations are asking you, the experts, and more importantly, the doers, to solve this problem. But rest assured, Cisco's going to be with you every step of the way. So what we'd like to do today is demonstrate two of our latest data center innovations. One, in the world of software-defined networking, we call ACI Anywhere. And the other, in the world of hyper-converged infrastructure, which we call HyperFlex Anywhere. And to do that, I'm going to ask for some help. I'm going to introduce Ronak Desai, Vice President of Engineering in our ACI group. Ronak, come on up.
All right.
All right. How you doing, sir?
Good, thank you.
So, Ronak, we've been delivering world-class innovation in ACI for the last 5 years.
That's right.
So automation, segmentation, security, and scale have been hallmarks of ACI. And then we've always had the mantra of any hypervisor, any container framework, any location. But what we're talking about now is really deploying workloads in multiple clouds, but still keeping the network segmentation and policy models consistent so we can scale the business.
That's right.
So why don't you take it away?
Yeah, thank you, Frank. So the next big innovation we are announcing today is the multi-cloud capability with ACI. And just to illustrate the power of that, I'm going to walk you through one of the customer scenario, Frank. Okay. So we have this customer here based in Melbourne. They have data center here. They're thinking of expanding globally. So they're looking at various options. At the same time, they want to give a choice to their developers to host some of the workload on the public cloud. But their CIO is very concerned with public cloud lock-in. So they're looking at AWS and Azure. But in the world of this complex multi-cloud, the CIO came and talked to us and saying, Cisco, can you help me solve this two distinct problems? One is a cloud-neutral way to do the network connectivity across your on-prem data centers and the public cloud. And then second one was the consistent segmentation policy. So just to show you how simple that is to do, we have a little demonstration for you here.
Let's do it.
So what you're seeing here is our multi-site orchestrator. I'm just going to quickly log in here. In the interest of time, Frank, what I did was I registered our on-prem site here, as well as the ACI site on AWS and ACI site on Azure into multi-site orchestrator.
Okay.
Just by virtue of registering that, we're pulling all the telemetry out, and we are showing the health of all those sites. So let's just do a quick deep dive here. What you're watching here is our AWS site in the US region. It's actually managing 2 regions, and it's all looking good. Let's just see how Azure site is looking here. Again, that's managing 2 regions, and it's looking all healthy here.
So we're actually capturing telemetry from AWS and Azure now.
You're right. Not only we capture the telemetry from on-prem data centers, but we are also looking at the CloudWatch and similar tools on Azure and pulling all that visibility and up-leveling it for here in one console. Okay. So let's just view quickly the connectivity across all these sites, right? So what you can see here, this connectivity was set up across the public cloud as well as on-prem with a couple of clicks and few input parameters. Traditionally, if you have to do this, Frank, you have to execute 3,300 commands on your cloud router and on-prem device.
Right, so Ronak, what we're showing here is not only a single pane of glass in this multi-cloud world, but we've eliminated 3,300 commands that probably someone in our audience would have to key in. So significant amount of automation here.
Absolutely, Frank. ACI is not only about just the network connectivity, it's also about the segmentation policy. So let's see how easy it is to deploy that. What you're watching here is our credit application, which was deployed on the on-prem Melbourne site here. This is your segmentation policy, and it's all healthy here. So I'm going to do a couple of clicks to deploy this application on AWS and Azure. So when I hit deploy here, we are basically doing hundreds of API calls on the AWS and Azure. It takes a couple of seconds to deploy your segmentation policy, which you had it defined for on-prem, onto these clouds.
Right. And I think it's important for the audience to realize all of these public clouds have their own policy models. So really with ACI Anywhere, you could avoid all the nuances to learn all those policy models and really move faster and automate it because you don't have to spend the time to learn everything about their policy models.
That's correct, Frank. So just to kind of show you a little bit more visibility into it, let's look at our application profile here, which was defined for your on-prem. You can see the segmentation policy. Actually, what you're seeing here is our Cloud API console on the AWS. It's actually showing you all the resources which you're using on a cloud for this application. And just to click on one of the tier of the application, it's actually deployed in 2 regions, and we were able to do seamless connectivity and segmentation policy required for that tier. The beauty of this solution, Frank, is we sort of automated and abstracted the whole policy across these multi-domains, multi-clouds, so that you learn and you use the same policy language, which you're using it for your on-prem workload deployment. Like the way we've been hypervisor agnostic, we are cloud neutral.
All right, so Ronak, what we basically showed the audience here is really a way to take the policy model and network segmentation model that we've probably worked really hard to build on-prem, and then automate that so you can now use it in the public cloud. And I think it's important to know too, it also can go back the other way. So if you had maybe some test dev and you wanted to start in the cloud first and then bring the policy model and segmentation model back on-prem, it would work either way.
Absolutely, it works both ways.
All right, Ronak, thanks very much. Glad you're on our team.
Thanks very much, Frank.
All right. So let's move into the world of the hyper-converged infrastructure, and I'd like to introduce Kostab Das, our Vice President for Product Management in our computer systems group. We call him KD, so KD, welcome to the stage.
Thank you very much.
All right, so KD, you and I have been on the HyperFlex journey, since the beginning, right?
We have.
We talked about speed and simplicity in the platform, right? Then we hardened HyperFlex to run mission-critical workloads, and then we added the cloud management with Intersight, right? So now we're talking about actually deploying data center functionality really in any location around the globe.
We're taking hyperconvergence to the edge.
Awesome.
So let me just illustrate that. So
Sure.
we're going to talk about a customer today, and this customer's data is moving everywhere. And they want to move their data centers everywhere. So the customer is called DIY Depot. They're rapidly expanding into Asia, 30 different locations, and the IT department is really worried and nervous about slowing down business.
Right, so I'm sure they're nervous, but how would they have done it the old way without this kind of automation?
Yeah, it's complicated. So what they would have done is they would have got all the equipment and people in a central location, racked it, stacked it, tested it, unracked it, then trucked people and gear from location 1 to location 2 to location 3. It takes time, it's error-prone, it's complicated. But of course, there's a better way.
Yes.
So what DIY Depot is going to do is they're going to follow a 3-step process. They're going to set up a pilot location in Melbourne, use the power of automation to replicate into Perth, and then use a power of the cloud to take that across to all the sites. So Melbourne has chosen the HyperFlex Edge appliance. It's a 2-node device. It's Intersight managed from the cloud through Intersight. It's got an Intersight Cloud Witness, which provides data resiliency and load costs. So Melbourne is up, all the applications are up, and now we're going to go into the Intersight console for the next step, right? So let's take us there. We get into Intersight and we log in. And what we see right now is we can see the HyperFlex Melbourne store on the right-hand side, top right. It's healthy, it's up. We're going to go into the profile for that store, and we're going to clone it. We're going to make a duplicate of it to create a profile for the Perth store. We're going to get into the Perth profile, and then we're going to change some settings. So it's in a different time zone. We'll change the time zone settings. We'll make sure the applications have SD-WAN loaded onto it because it needs connectivity out to the internet. And then we'll make sure everything's good on the summary tab and hit submit. And at this point, Frank, Intersight takes over and works its magic behind the scenes.
All right, so Katie, this almost looks too easy. We have the smartest audience in the industry out there. What's happening behind the scenes here?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked. There's a lot going on. So what's really happening behind the scenes is the Perth store was racked up. Then Intersight connected to it from the cloud. It downloaded the server profiles onto the device. Servers were brought up, hypervisors were loaded. Then the SD-WAN virtual machine was loaded up. It connected to vManage to configure the SD-WAN. The tunnels were set up. Now we've got connectivity. The next step, get the storage system up and running. So the HyperFlex distributed file system was loaded up. LUNs were created and carved out and named, and all of the complexity that goes into doing that. And at that point, your infrastructure is up and running and humming. You get your applications up. Now your store's up and ready to go.
So Katie, why don't you take us through the next step of this? But this is really just a great example of how to meet the challenges in this new uncentered world where we have to deliver applications and data to where the data is.
That's exactly right. We've used the power of the cloud to automate the deployment at edge locations. So let's go in and see what's going on. So the Perth store is now up. We can get back into the dashboard. And now we see the Melbourne store up on the top right, the Perth store up on the bottom right. And at this point, to do this for the rest of the locations is simply rinse and repeat. You go into Intersight, you load up the profiles for the rest of the stores. Intersight from the cloud deploys the stores in multiple locations, potentially even simultaneously.
Awesome. Power of the cloud, HX. Great job, KD.
Thanks
very much. All right.
Frank, that was awesome, man. And you can really kind of see the future of the data center in those demos. But I couldn't help but notice when you did the ACI Anywhere demo in particular, There was a cloud router, but then when you did the HyperFlex demo, there was actually SD-WAN included.
Yeah, so Scott, when you're talking about pushing data center services to the edge, SD-WAN is a critical role. And I think that's why a lot of our customers are looking for us to, because we play in all these multi-domains. It's not just in one area. We need to bring the whole thing
really
together.
bring them together, right?
That's it.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And I think it's a great bridge to our next topic, which is when you think about the cloud, the reality is every cloud project is actually an SD-WAN project. And the reason I say that is when you think about your own businesses that you're involved with, when they go to deploy and adopt something like Office 365, oftentimes they'll sign that contract and they'll be really proud of it, but what they don't really think through a lot of times is the fact that now every user needs incrementally more bandwidth. And if you're like most IT shops in the world, you don't necessarily have more budget to provide that bandwidth. And for that application experience to be great, you need that incremental bandwidth, and that's why people are starting to bring internet connectivity into the branches, so they can load balance these applications across the classical MPLS circuits as well as your internet connectivity. Because that makes for the best application performance for many of these new SaaS or IaaS-driven apps. And the implications of that, though, are obvious. So it's when you have SD-WAN and you have an internet connectivity, it's not best effort anymore. It is business critical. You need that link to be up as much as possible, and you need the provider to actually, from an SD-WAN point of view, to be able to real-time balance between the links as conditions change. The other big implication of this is that when you move to internet connectivity in the branch, you actually change your security architecture as well. Now, instead of maybe having 1, 2, 3, 4 DMZs, you actually have distributed those across your entire enterprise. You might have 100, 1,000, 2,000, 10,000 locations that now connect directly to the internet. That can change your whole risk profile. That can actually lead to poor user experience if the architecture is not done right. And this is why we at Cisco, we believe every SD-WAN device must also participate in the security architecture and must become part of that security solution. And so we are blending together networking, the cloud, and security to make sure you can on-ramp your business as fast as possible to the cloud in the most secure way. And a good example of this is what we just released. We just got done bringing in our best-in-class security capabilities and integrated them directly into our best-in-class SD-WAN services. Taking enterprise firewall up to layer 7, taking IPS that's powered by Cisco Talos and URL filtering, and integrating them directly in our ISR ASRs, as well as in our Meraki MXs, and being centrally managed by a single dashboard. But we know many of you are not going to deploy security at the edge that way. Many of you want to use cloud-based security. So we've also made it super simple for you to connect to that cloud-based security. Single click, and you can establish a connection to Cisco Umbrella. So however you want to manifest it, we're going to make the SD-WAN architecture work seamlessly with your security architecture. So we talked about 2 disruptions. We talked about wireless, we talked about cloud. The third I told you I was going to talk about was IoT. And to do that, I want to start with a story. And this actually happened not too recently, where the implications of IoT were actually can be very impactful for a business. We actually saw a chocolate company that's local to the Asia region lose $188 million. We saw a shipping company lose $300 million. We saw a pharmaceutical company lose $870 million USD. And all it took was 4 minutes. 4 minutes to lose over $1 billion. And what's incredible about the story is it doesn't get told enough. And I love the title of this article, and it's a great article if you want to go read about it. It's called The Untold Story of NotPetya. This was malware that got into networks with a goal that was much different than what historically we saw attackers do. They weren't there to steal data. In fact, they weren't even there to get money. They were there to simply melt the enterprise. And they did it really, really well. And this is something you need to start thinking about with IoT in your environment, is the security implications of that are really important to your business. Because if somebody's able to attack that and attack the availability of your organization, they can dramatically impact your business's operations and cause catastrophic losses for a business. Now, then there's another untold story here, which is we actually work with a hospital in the US, and they got hit by NotPetya. They had 2 devices get infected. Didn't spread, didn't go anywhere. And why didn't it go anywhere? Because they had done adequate segmentation across their entire environment that even though those 2 devices got hit, it couldn't spread laterally. It couldn't get to the rest of the network. And so when you're thinking about your architectural evolution for IoT, you need to be thinking about segmentation. The second thing that you want to be thinking about is the complexity that inherently comes. You go from managing maybe hundreds and thousands of users with a certain amount of devices to now billions of devices in the future. And that doesn't matter if you're operating in classical kind of enterprise spaces, like smart offices, where maybe you have a thermostat that now is connected and has an encrypted channel out to the internet. It doesn't matter if you're managing lighting or door locks or HVAC systems. Or now we're seeing more and more people have to bring in the OT environment into the IT environment. And now your responsibilities are growing as IT professionals to include that operational environment, that ruggedized industrial environment. And so you need to be ready for this complexity and have a plan to deal with it. The third way IoT impacts you is around expectations, around availability. You know, Nan mentioned that there's warehouses that now use robots to pick packages. Well, I talked to one of the people who do this at a massive scale, and they were saying, hey, listen, Scott, for me now, for my business, I can't have any downtime for the wireless network because those robots rely on that connectivity to do their job. And if they're not able to pick packages, my company starts getting calls from customers complaining. And if they get enough calls, my CEO gets a call. If my CEO gets a call, you can be damn sure I'm going to get a call, and I don't want that call. Because that starts to be a big deal for my company. And the expectations have changed from where Wi-Fi was best effort historically, now it's mission critical. And so we've been investing in ways to help you deal with this problem. You saw some of the demos from ACI and HyperFlex Anywhere, which is around intent-based networking. And really, the key here is a couple different things. One is that we simplify your world through automation. We take tasks that used to consume enormous amounts of time, and we automate them. We actually do that so that you can actually start to perform much more sophisticated tasks because we make things simpler in the single domain. Things like segmentation and allowing you to prescribe policy that might be very complex and have it implemented across an entire network very simply. The other piece of this is we've been investing heavily in analytics because if you're going to have more complexity in your environment, you need next generation analytics to handle it, to simplify things for you, because the availability expectations are way up here now. And so when there is a problem, we need you to be able to figure out what it is and troubleshoot it right away and get it fixed. And so we're taking this intent-based networking paradigm, and now we are extending it to the IoT edge. We just announced these new switches, these IE3K switches. They are awesome ruggedized switches. They are built for the OT environment, but they also work seamlessly with our IBM architecture. They can be plugged in and it can be configured by DNA Center. We announced a new industrial router that's ruggedized as well. And it can be plugged in and configured and managed by our SD-WAN architecture, by vManage. We're the only company that is enabling you to have this IT-OT convergence and deal with the complexity, deal with the security implications, and deal with the networking implications you need to run this with your current IT staff. So that was the 3 big disruptions, and we talked about, right? Is wireless, cloud, and IoT. But I kind of lied. There's actually a 4th one we want to talk about. And that 4th one is actually about you. Your role in all of this is changing as well. Irvin talked about this yesterday, but we are asking you to evolve from being just networking engineers and networking professionals to being networking programmers. And we are doing everything we can to enable that for you. We are creating products that have open APIs that are highly programmable. We're also investing in the DevNet community to come alongside you and help you do that. But rather than keep talking to you about it, I actually wanted to show you how this might manifest in your environment and how you might be able to use something like DevNet in your own world. So to help me do that, I actually want to bring out our distinguished engineer, Victor Marino.
Hey, Scott.
Hey, Victor. What do you got for us?
Well, we have some exciting showcase of many of the technologies that you talked about, and we're going to show how we operationalize them through APIs.
Awesome.
So if we go in here, what we have is a series of campus sites that we have been deploying around Australia. You have some in Sydney, some in Melbourne, and they are using SD-Access, which is where we basically realize our intent-based networking. And you can see here the console that manages SD-Access, which is DNA Center. All of these sites are interconnected by an SD-WAN that in turn is managed by vManage. So we have a heterogeneous environment, and we're going to show how we bring a site online using APIs and single touch point and just a couple of clicks, really.
All right, awesome. I'm game. Let's do it.
So we're going to deploy our site at Melbourne 3. We're showing here that there's nothing at Melbourne 3 right now. So rather than me clicking on a series of GUI calls, we're going to go to a portal that we've created for Acme Corporation. Imagine that, Roadrunner Acme.
Yeah.
So
let's hope no anvil drops during the middle of this demo, right?
Hopefully not. So in our portal, we have a series of scripts that call APIs to realize different tasks. And we have scripts for DNA Center, calling DNA Center APIs, for vManage, for APIC. And
so this is not a Cisco product. This is actually something that was crafted in the lab, and is something that anybody could build.
Exactly.
And it costs how much?
Zero, you do it yourself.
All right. That's probably what our customers like to hear in the audience.
So let's go into our workflow. The first thing that we need to do is claim those devices. They've been racked and stacked for us by our operations personnel. Right now, all we see are serial numbers. We're going to go ahead and claim them, and by doing so, what we are doing is associating those serial numbers to plug-and-play workflows that are going to give them base configuration. It's been successful. The next thing we do is we provision them so that they take their right role in that fabric at that site. You can see now we are pulling the inventory from DNA Center. So these are all the devices that DNA Center is aware of. The tool can see them by simple API calls. And we can see here the names.
So this is not DNA Center, but it's accessing DNA Center through API. So this is a generic portal that you've built to do that.
Exactly.
All right.
Exactly. So you can customize your operations by using these APIs. And here we see that we have all our different devices. Some of them are wireless LAN controllers. Some of them are edge devices. We're going to provision this to a template that can be repeated in different sites. And with one click of a button, we now have a site that is up and running.
That seems super simple. How do I know it worked? It seemed too easy.
Well, let's go back to DNA Center, and let's look at our console. And we'll see, as we navigate into our fabric, Australia, and let's go to Melbourne 3. And here we go. You have a fully functional site. This is our industrial Ethernet switch for our IoT devices. We have our wireless LAN controllers. All the devices in blue have been configured to deliver an SD-Access fabric, which gives me segmentation and security.
So when we started, this screen was blank, but now via those API calls, you provisioned all these physical devices and created a secure fabric in your Melbourne 3 slide.
Right. And you can see how there's a few of them. They're all doing different things. This is pre-canned. You can repeat this in Melbourne 4, Melbourne 5, and basically grow your network that way. Now notice that we have a couple of routers leading to the internet. We want to secure those. You mentioned the integrated security feature set on the SD-WAN routers. Let's use that.
All right.
So that is managed by vManage, which is a separate console. So I'm going to go to that separate console. And what I see here is there is a general security policy, and that is implemented across the network. I have DNS security policies. There's my DNS security policy. I have intrusion prevention policies. Oh, what happened here? Well, we need an intrusion prevention policy.
Yeah, it's probably not a good idea to have an internet connection without an IPS policy.
Right.
So why don't we do that?
Let's do that, but we're going to do it with our APIs. So we have a script that does exactly that. Our SecOps team collaborated with us, and we put pre-canned all their security policies for firewall, intrusion prevention, URL filtering, and DNS security. So for the intrusion prevention aspect, we have a script that is pushing that policy onto our routers.
And that's really powerful because, most networks are a heterogeneous environment. And so if you had, firewalls maybe in addition to vManage, like RFTD firewalls, which are fully API programmable as well, you could use the same type of script to have a consistent policy across both.
Exactly. No fat fingering and no deviation from the policy.
That's really important for security. You don't want mistakes there. So, but let me ask you this. This looks great. You know, it looks like it was actually, you know, done by some professionals. Like, how was this done and who did it? I mean, this must have taken hours of network programmers' time.
Well, they are professionals, but they're networking professionals. They are not programming professionals.
So these are network engineers. These are TMEs.
Yes, and they basically leverage the DevNet community and all the resources there to get this off the ground within 24 hours.
So it only took them, so non-professional programmers, they maybe have done a little bit in the past. It only took them 24 hours to build API calls to all these systems and do these complicated workflows in a single click.
Exactly. They had reference scripts, they had all the documentation they needed, and they had a community behind them that is growing basically circa 600,000 active developers.
That's awesome. So, I mean, but how do I know this worked?
Well, let's look at it. Let's go back to vManage and see what we have here. So we get our console back up, and wait for it. Here we go. Intrusion prevention. Let's see. We have our intrusion prevention policy now.
You seemed a little nervous that was going to show up there, Victor.
Well, the demo gods are always at play. So we have a series of detection actions that we're going to do on certain signatures, and we are issuing alerts. That was basically the policy that SecOps decided was appropriate.
That's awesome. So now we got the network up and running. We got it provisioned. We got both the network fabric on the LAN as well as the WAN and security provisioned. But now I've got to run this on an ongoing basis. What can we do with APIs to maybe automate that as well?
Well, it's not complete without assurance, right? We've got our intent-based networking has to assure. So we wrote a little script to assure that what we had intended to do on these switches was actually done. So here's a digest of different parameters from our assurance engine that we have brought up for the particular devices that we...
So once again, taking API calls, calling out to our different systems and checking for network health. And that could be to one system, that could be to 5, 10, 30 systems, all coming back to a converged dashboard.
And you tailor it to whatever is of interest to you. So different people latch onto different metrics and different...
So you know, this looks good, but I got to be a little concerned. You got a red one there, right? That's usually not a good sign, right?
Oh, you're right. So the 9200.01 in Melbourne 3. Let's see what what the issue may be. Let's go to DNA Center, and we can look at our assurance workflow. I'm going to zoom in a little bit.
Now I can drill a little deeper.
And we can drill a little deeper. So I go into my assurance tool, and it should be reported here amongst the top issues. Let's see, here it is, Melbourne 3, 9200-01. So if I click on it, I get more detail. It's a flapping interface.
Okay.
And I have a series of actions that I can take to troubleshoot a flapping interface. This is pre-canned knowledge from our operations teams, customers, our own internal operations guys. And we're going to go ahead and try the first one. And this is basically patched into the switches, so I don't need to go find a way to telnet. And the line protocol is down, which tells me there's a cabling issue down there.
All right, well, that seems like something that needs to get addressed. So how about you go take care of that for us?
Let's go do it.
All right, thank you, Victor. Appreciate it, man. So hopefully that kind of illustrates for you what's possible with the DevNet community. And you can actually go online right now and go look at developer.cisco.com and actually get that actual sample piece of code today. It's there and it's available for you. You can also go on developer.com and actually learn about other use cases, actually build your own capabilities, and actually work in a sandbox and actually practice before you try it out on your live network. And so I encourage you, especially for those folks online, to go give it a try right now. Don't wait, right? Well, at least wait for a few minutes till the end of the presentation. But if you're in the room, outside of this room, is actually a whole DevNet zone. And if you haven't been there at the conference, or if you've been to multiple Cisco Lives and haven't been there yet, I encourage you, please do go. It's a great way to kind of bootstrap that disruption of yourself to evolve your own career and become a network programmer. So we talked about 4 different disruptions: wireless, multi-cloud, IoT, and you yourself. And that really makes for exciting times. These are times where the amount of innovation we can bring into the market's really unparalleled. And we can help drive that for our businesses. All the folks in the room and on the line, we are the folks that are going to make this happen for our businesses. And we at Cisco, we're coming alongside you to try to simplify your world so you can do more and more of these incredible use cases through things like intent-based networking and bringing in these common policies of simplification through automation, enabling you to run this at scale through world-class analytics and being able to provide more security for your environment through automated policy. But we're not just doing it in one domain, because we know you don't just run a branch or a campus, you run an entire network that now, as Frank said, has expanded out into the cloud. So we're also doing it across domains, and we're starting to link these together in meaningful ways. You saw in KD's demo the fact that HyperFlex now programs an SD-WAN router through the API calls to vManage. You saw in the ACI Anywhere that it actually set up a cloud router in addition to setting up the ACI Fabric, not just on-prem, but in the cloud. We're connecting these in meaningful ways to help you solve specific use cases and outcomes. And what's really cool about this is it unlocks possibilities for us. When you think about what we talked about at the beginning, science fiction's all about making us imagine what's possible. And I think what's super cool about the network is everything becomes possible.